I personally have been really excited to like have you on, and I'm really like glad that we're able to like meet up and talk about it, because I know a lot of people are interested in your story. Like, I have like a long list of people that I want to get on, and of course, like since the episodes are kind of like far and few between, it takes like a long time to get to the next person. But I know that a lot of people are really excited to hear like when you're gonna be on, because you know they're interested in your story, and again, like I said, it is a little like different change of pace because you're my uncle and stuff like that, and the conversation is going to be a little bit different. But like I said, I'm super excited to have you on, and I'm glad you're able to talk.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like totally all up for sharing my life story.
Yeah, that's cool. For sure. So I guess we can kind of like start. It's going to be a little bit more of like a chronological thing. I know like conversations that we've had before, especially like with the cousins and family stuff, it's a lot more of like
straight to the juicy stuff.
Yeah. Usually it's like, oh, what went down? Like, how did that happen? Like, how does this work? How does that work? You know? But for this conversation, I would like kind of want it to be a little bit more of like the whole story of like beginning to end, how you like got there and stuff like that. So I guess we can kind of start off like with your family, like where you grew up, like how you grew up.
So I was born in Chicago, but I would say if you talk about my childhood, I would say Orange County. So I moved to Orange County like in I want to say fourth grade. Moved to Orange County, and that's basically where I grew up. Went to elementary school, middle school, and high school. I grew up in El Toro. I went to Laguna Hills High School growing up. So it's me, my two sisters, Yvette and Alicia. We're all, the three of us. Yvette's a year older than me. Alicia's 2 years younger than me. So there's three of us within 4 years. So we were all really close. Tight. In our household, but it was just my mom. So she was a single mom raising all of us. But it was great because it's Orange County. Like you know, Orange County is such a great place for families, and I grew up playing in the streets and like riding bikes. Everything you would see like kids growing up in the 80s, that was me basically to a T. The only thing is my mom was a single mom, so she was gone a lot, So and they call it a latchkey kid, because a lot of kids grew up like with divorced parents, so it's almost like they were kind of raising themselves, because the parents were always at work. So my mom worked she worked a lot, sometimes 2 jobs at once. So me and my sisters, we basically kind of raised ourselves. Like we fed ourselves. We would watch TV. Like we would go grocery shopping with the three of us.
Oh, dang.
So it was like kind of like, and I'm talking about like. Yvette was a little bit old. Yvette grew up really fast, so she drove first. So like when she was a sophomore, she was driving. So I was a freshman. Alicia was in middle school, so like she would actually take us and we'd go grocery shopping and do stuff like that. So it was kind of like that was my childhood, but it was great. Yeah, it was fun. After that, so that was El Toro, which is kind of like deep Orange County. Later on, I started hanging out a little further north, like towards like Costa Mesa, Fountain Valley, and it's a lot more diverse there. So I met a lot of friends there. Mostly, so when I was younger, it was like literally like I was the only Filipino kid in school, like me and my sister. After that, it was like a bunch of like when I started hanging out further north. I met a bunch of Filipino friends, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah. So, like, when you started hanging out with your friends, was it more from, like, what did you say after El Toro again?
El Toro, like, I started hanging out, like, in Costa Mesa, Fountain Valley, Santa Ana.
Yeah.
Yeah, all around
So,
there.
like, how did, was there, like, a difference between your friends in, like, El Toro compared to, like, your friends in, like, Fountain Valley?
Totally.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of my friends were growing up, they were just all surfers. Like, surfers.
In El Toro? Or?
In El Toro.
Okay.
They surfed. We like in high school. They used to call them keggers because they would have like kegs, keg parties.
Oh, okay.
And that's all we would do. It's like we would go. We'd go to the beach a lot. They would drink a lot. At like these kegs, and it was literally like just all white people. And then when I started hanging out a little bit older, and I guess it was also the change of the times when I started hanging out with one of my Filipino friends. That was a whole different shift because later on that was like more like fixing up our cars and playing basketball.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like the Filipino thing back then. But also that was the time that I started hanging out because I was old enough. We started going to the clubs. We started going, 18 and over clubs, and then later on 21 and over clubs. So yeah, that was basically the biggest difference there.
Yeah. So would you say that in kind of like the timeline of you going from El Toro to the next city, would you say like that shift in friends is kind of what started you down? Was it those friends?
No. Those friends were like, they were great friends. Those, like, when I look back in my life, like growing up in El Toro, that was just like basically growing up in school and playing in the streets.
Yeah.
But when I think about like friendships and like really good friends, and it's later on, like when I started hanging out with those Filipino friends. They're all really great guys. Like they're all family men, of course, right now, and we still keep in touch.
Oh, that's nice.
A lot of them are actually Nicole's uncles.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, like that's like they're still there. Like I can still see what's going on.
That's cool.
Through Nicole. So, they're really great guys. That the big shift in my life was really when I started hanging out in Carson.
Oh, okay. Okay. So from El Toro to one more time,
like Costa Mesa, Fountain Valley,
Costa Mesa, and then you went to Carson. And how old were you when you moved
I started hanging out in Carson? So
like
I was already working. So I was ready. Like I wasn't a kid anymore. So I was when I was hanging out in Orange County. Those were fun days. We would go to nightclubs. We would drink. We would just do things like regular 21 year old.
Nothing like crazy.
Nothing crazy. I mean, So let me back up a little bit. So when I was in high school, a lot of the guys that they used to go to the beach with, would surf and go to those kegs with, they smoked a lot of weed. So you are who you hang out with.
Yeah.
So that's what I started doing. So I wasn't like a stranger to anything like that. And then when I started hanging out with my friends in Orange County, we drank a lot. I mean, the Filipino, my Filipino club, we drank a lot because we went to nightclubs. We dabbled a little bit here and there, but but it wasn't anything crazy. Like and then I started hanging out in Orange County. I mean, in Carson.
Did you move to Carson, or you
I started working. I started working at a casino. There was a casino. So the Hustler Casino?
Yeah.
So that used to be called the El Dorado Club.
Okay.
So I actually got a job there. So instead of like driving from Orange County all the way to Gardena, I would just start my uncle would say, hey, just spend it at my house, because he lived in Carson. So I started staying in Carson just so the commute would be easier while I was working.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it all started, because after that, I had a bunch of friends in Carson as well, but they were up to a totally different things. Yeah. Like, not like what I would do with my other friends.
Yeah. So how, like, the friends that you had in Carson, were they from your work, like from the casino, or
they were from like no, so like they were just friends of friends. Yeah. So I knew them because every summer, although I grew up in Orange County, we would come to Carson to hang out because my uncle lived here.
Yeah.
And through that, we just met a bunch because there were so many Filipinos there. We just instantly clicked with a bunch of them. And growing up, we just hung out a lot. And they were and these guys were like gangster Filipinos.
Yeah.
They weren't like, let's go to a nightclub Filipino.
Yeah.
They were more like gangsters. They were like, there was back then there was a gang called TBS and a gang called CPC, and they were basically like the first Filipino gangs.
And then you hung out with those guys a lot?
Yeah, hung out with them a lot. Yeah, they're fun. They hung out. They were funny, but they were just up. They were also a gang, so they would get into trouble. So
when you were hanging out with them, those guys in the gangs and stuff like that, were you kind of already like cognizant and wary, like, oh, I need to be careful what I do around these people because they're in that scene, or was...
No, I was young and reckless.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Kind of because it was so different, it was kind of weird because it was a little bit exciting.
Yeah.
Too, but no, yeah, like it was because they were. I identified with them because they were Filipino.
Yeah.
So. I didn't see it as so far-fetched to, hang out with them and do stuff that they did. And, like, I think maybe if they were, like, probably a different race and I hung up with them and they were gangsters, I'd be like, well, what are these guys up to? But since they were Filipinos, I felt like, oh, they're just like me, they're my people. We laugh, we joke around, we eat the same food. So I felt like, oh, yeah, they're not so far-fetched from me,
Yeah.
But, but they did get into a lot more deeper trouble, they carried guns and, they did way more deeper, harder drugs. They sold drugs. I never knew people who sold drugs before that. It was more like we would buy, like, as when I hung out with other friends, we would buy from other people if we ever wanted to do it. But I never knew people who sold it. So I started hanging out in Carson. So, just a little bit deeper and stuff.
So how, like, when you started hanging out with those guys and you noticed that was, like, the crowd that they're about and stuff like that, how did you basically get caught up in that stuff? Like, how?
So, it really snuck up on me, you know, like I considered myself just a regular dude, but the more I hung out with them and the more you do that stuff, like, maybe you'll do it, like back then it was, we drank, we smoked weed, but then, shabu started coming on the scene, like meth started coming on the scene. So you would do it, like we would do it. I mean, back then I would do it like once a month, like when I would see them or whatever. But then the more I started hanging out here, I found myself doing it like once a week, and then after a while it was kind of like, 2 times a week, and it just started really sneaking up on me. And before I knew it, I was like, I started looking for that stuff, and plus it was so here. I was up here in Carson, and it was so accessible. So it just really snuck up on me. And before I knew it, I was like, when we used to like score drugs before, we would just go and we'd buy, and it was like kind of like a covert operation. Like what I was talking about with my other friends. It's like we would go and it's like, ooh, let's get out of here. Now, when I was living up here, I was actually hanging out at these places. Like the places that sold.
Other people would come and buy.
I would hang out with, my friends, a friend's house or a friend's garage, and other people would come by, and we would. A lot of times, and we would just sit there. We would play darts and just like play cards and be, doing the stuff would be laying around. So
did they ever try to recruit you?
So eventually, it wasn't really recruiting. But now that I think back, like it was kind of crazy. So when I started hanging out at this one house that I eventually got busted at, I remember. Because I was the squeaky clean kid. Like I didn't have a record. I lived in Orange County. I was, I was clean cut. Compared to everybody else. So I started like picking up stuff. Like the place that was at the house they were dealing. They would score a lot of like bigger amounts of stuff, but they would score it. They would get it from. A bunch of Hispanic people. So I remember him sending me to an apartment before. He said, just go here. This is the scale. Make sure that the stuff weighs this amount. Give him this cash, and we're talking like, $10,000 or something. And then
in cash?
In
like
cash.
You were just walking around with 10,000.
Yeah. I think it was like 7,000 or something. It was, and then they're going to make sure that it weighs this amount and just, tuck it back in this box, put it in your trunk and come straight back here. And things were really fuzzy for me back then. Like, like I was partying, I was doing stuff like this. So I was like, I'll totally do that. Yeah,
you didn't really have any like worries or second
now when I think
guesses
back, now I'm like, man, everything could have gone sideways. I'm so blessed that nobody pulled out a gun on me or anything. But it could have easily happened. You know, like
for sure.
Yeah, they could if the guy decided like, hey, I want to keep the drugs and the cash. He could have easily just pulled out a gun on me. I wouldn't have done anything. You know what I mean? But I did that a few times. So.
But you were never officially like part of it, like
no. But this is at this time, no. Like at that time, no, I wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't until this house that I hung out with, and it was probably for like about 6 months. I started hanging out with this house all the time because this guy just had everything. Like he had all the toys at his house. We played darts all night. Because he dealt, so he had he had the Porsche parked out front. Just money. We just. Everything was rolling. You hang out there, and we played pool, we played ping pong, we played darts, but we smoked a lot of shabu over there.
Yeah.
And then that's why he would say, hey, can you go grab this up? And for me, it was like, sure, you know, because I had fun.
You helping him out. You're kind of like OM kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of. You know, I had fun hanging out there. So I was like, I can do this. I can do this for you. And then that house got raided one day.
And that was the first time?
That was the very first time I got,
So how does that even look? So you're just kicking it?
So we were doing all the regular things that we were doing. And I was with this other guy, and we decided to go to Alpine Village one time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that day, yeah. Because they wanted to buy, they sold like torches, you know,
like butane torches.
Butane torches, you know, like even the ones that you would use for creme brulee, like the creme brulee something, or the sea or something. They used to sell those there, and those were kind of like you couldn't find those anywhere really, but they used to sell them there.
Yeah,
and that's what we used to use to smoke the stuff. So we went there to go buy that. I just remember, and I remember now seeing these same guys there that I like. They were just kind of like. And every time we would change to another booth, they just kept on following us.
Like older guys,
older guys, older guys, like beard, but you know they just look like. And then, I didn't think anything of it. When we pull up into the street of the house, and as soon as we parked, I looked behind me, and probably like 15 cop cars.
Oh my god!
Come swooping in behind us, and all their lights on. I'm like, oh my gosh! And we just so happened to have stuff in the back of our the trunk, like a bunch of like chemicals and chemicals with drugs mixed into it and stuff. And that was it. Like they pulled us all on the ground. Yeah. Everyone in the house got down, and
everyone did. Like a lot of people try to run and stuff like that. Like scatter. Like,
well, there was only like 4 of us in there at the time. You know, this other guy came walking up, and he's a guy used to hang out at the house. And he had no idea. He's like, "What's going on here?" He just kind of walked by the cops, tried to walk in, and then he ended up getting busted too. But he could have easily left. But I guess he just felt like, you know, I hung out at this house so much. You know, what is going on here? But that was my first time, and I was like. And my mindset was totally different. Like, that's when things got real, you know, because before then, in my head, to me, I guess I was still that Orange County guy. Yeah. The same guy that, you know.
Like, in your mind, you're like, this shouldn't be me. Like, this shouldn't be me.
Like, this is me. I'm just squeaky clean. You know, I'm not even from Carson. Like, I'm from Orange County. Like, this is not my scene, you know. Like, this is for those guys, you know. But obviously, I've been hanging out there for so long that I eventually, you know, that I was those guys, you know. But so we got busted. I got sent into Carson Sheriff Station, 4 of us in handcuffs, and I've got pulled over by cops before, and but this was like kegger parties, you know, where the helicopter comes.
Yeah,
and they break everything up. Okay, everyone scatter. You guys sit on the curb. You know, you sit on the curb, and then they let everyone go. Yeah. You know, it's something like a slap on the wrist. But this time I was actually in Carson jail. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh.
So that was the first time you ever went to jail, went to prison.
I went in there, and there was some guy in the next cell just screaming. I was like, and then the cop was joking around, I'm going to put you in that cell. I was like, oh my God. Like, what's going on here? Yeah, I was kind of, it was really, really freaky. Dang. Yeah. And that was it. That was like the start of like my jail, jail life. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so you got arrested and stuff. And then how was the process of you, like, where did you go, and like what were your thoughts? And
because I was on so much drugs back then, my mind was really fuzzy, you know. Like when you come off of the drugs, all you really want to do is sleep, you know, because like a lot of times you've been up for days, you know, and when you're coming off it, like you're just always tired, you just want to sleep. So I was in and out of sleep inside that cell, you know. But it's crazy because that's the first time I was ever without freedom, you know? Like, if I wanted to get up and walk out this door right now, I could. Yeah. Back, you know, when you're in a jail cell, like, I've never felt like, oh, my God. I started getting claustrophobic. Like, no windows, you're in the cell, it's all cement, you know? It's like, even if I wanted to get up, I couldn't. I started panicking a little bit, you know? Like, my thoughts in my head were like, you got the wrong guy. Like, I don't belong here. Can we talk to somebody? But, you know, of course... There's nobody in there that you can talk to. You know? So.
It's interesting to hear that you say like that was your first time ever being without freedom, because like knowing how you grew up and stuff like that, like that's a big difference in how a lot of people grow up too, of like, you know, really raising yourselves and not really having parents to like watch out for you, because that is like, even at a really young age, you felt a lot of freedom. Oh yeah, you know, like you can do whatever you want. And
we pretty much, you know, like I didn't have to ask my mom if I can spend a night at somebody's house. You know, like like when I was like, I mean, of course, I was a kid, yes, but like in middle school already, like I was like, I mean, I would out of courtesy, like, hey, I'm going to be across the street at Josh's house, you know, but I would never. There was no fear of like, no, you can't. You need to stay home tonight. My mom would let us, you know, basically do whatever we want, you know. So yeah, so it was really, that was one of the feelings I remember feeling. It's like when I first got arrested was like, one was like, this is not me. You got the wrong guy. You know, and then the second one was like, gosh, I feel so trapped right now. Like I can't. I started panicking. Like, let me out of here. Give me some fresh air. You know, if I can just see the sky, I'll be okay. You know, but yeah.
And then so, I don't actually know how it goes. So you got arrested.
So I got arrested, and then there's a thing called an arraignment. So I had to go to an arraignment where that's where you find out if you're guilty or not guilty, or you plead if you're guilty or not guilty. Of course, everyone's going to say not guilty, you know, because you want to, you know, you don't want to stay in there. And then they sent me to LA County. This is like the old jail, and that's like the craziest. So like, they send you to the 9,000 floor, and that's like a reception floor, and there's like everybody. There's probably like, I don't know, 300 people in there, all from the street, you know, and mixed, you know. So in Carson, I was in a cell, which is kind of, even though I was trapped, at least I was, you know, safe. You know, like I didn't have to worry about other people. But once I went to LA County, and there was all these people there, it was crazy. You know, you're like, that's when, I mean, and this is all new to me. You know, I was like, and I didn't know the difference between jail and prison or whatever. This was literally all new to me. I mean, my saving grace is I said 4 of us got busted, so the 4 of us were together. So we were kind of like sticking together during that time, you know. But I went there, and called up my sisters. And I started, you know, they of course were like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, you know, crying on the phone. You got to help me. You got to get me out of here.
Did they know leading up to this, like, who you're hanging out with, like what you've been doing? Like they knew, like,
they totally knew. Yeah, you know, because like, I mean, we're a close family, you know, so like we hung out all the time. So I mean, we saw each other all the time. So when I started, and the thing is, my sister Yvette was also affiliated with that house, and she was deep into it. So my sister Alicia knew what was going on there. You know, I mean, at one point, it was me and Alicia who tried to get Yvette out of that house, and eventually I started hanging out at that house. You know, that got busted. So, I mean, they all knew. Alicia knew that. You know, when I called, it wasn't a surprise to her.
Okay.
You know? I called her up, and you got to help me. And her and my dad had to hire a lawyer for me first time. And we went through the whole process. And so what they got me for was, because I had chemicals in the back of the car, my actual charge was manufacturing drugs. And it's bigger than just dealing drugs. Like manufacturing drugs, you're kind of, they see you as the source, kind of, you know. Even though I wasn't, but because chemicals were involved, they see it as they can put a manufacturing charge in there. So my bail was $500,000 or something.
Gosh. And then this was when?
This was in 94. Oh
my
gosh. It was sometime in the 90s, 94, 93, 94, 95. It's all really fuzzy to me. Like, I don't remember. I only remember the day that I got out. That's what I remember.
For the first time?
No, the day that I got out for the final time.
Oh, okay.
All the other dates, seriously, were all blurry.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
But
so did they pay it? Did they pay the bail?
No. So we had to wait for a bail reduction hearing.
Oh, okay.
So I had to stay in jail for 2 months. That's crazy. Like 2 months is a long. Like 2 months from now, like, I mean, like if I tell you, if I tell you 2 months, like you remember 2 months ago, like you probably don't even remember what happened 2 months ago, you know, in your life. Yeah. So 2 months is a long time, especially when you're in jail, you know,
especially for the first time too.
Oh yeah. Like one day feels like a week.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what 2 months feels like, you know?
And then jail, if I remember correctly, jail, is that like more dangerous or more chill than prison?
So now in hindsight, it's more dangerous, you know, but back then, you know, I just figured, okay, it's jail. I didn't know the difference either.
Yeah.
But LA County, the old jail is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like literally like, you know, steel bars.
Yeah.
you know, and it was super overcrowded at the time. So you had 4 bunks in there, but then there was 2 people on the floor. So there's 6 people, you know. You're in there with a bunch of different people. I didn't know any of the rules, jail rules. There's just so many jail rules. Yeah. So, yeah, it was crazy. And eventually, the 4 of us that were in there, we all got split up.
Oh.
So I was basically on my own.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I didn't know anything.
Yeah. Did you have like a plan? Like, did you, in your mind, think like, okay, this is what I need to do to survive, or like I need to. Like, how did that?
All my thoughts were really on the outside.
Oh, like, I just need to get out.
You need to get me out. Yeah. Like, do anything you can to get me out. You know, it's my very first time I was in jail. Like, please, you know I don't belong here. This isn't me. Get me out. Yeah. Do whatever you can to get me out.
So what was the point when you realized that wasn't going to happen? Do you know?
Every time. So you're always waiting for your next court date, because your next court date will always figure out, okay, what is possible? What can you do?
Yeah.
Where are you at? But the thing is, court dates aren't one after the other. So there's the arraignment, and then a week after, they go, okay, your court date's next week. In my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, next week.
Yeah.
That means I'm going to be in here for another week, you know? So, and that's how it happened. So I'd go to court. That court was a bail reduction. Okay, will they give us a bail reduction? And they said yes. Okay, come back to court in 2 weeks. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be here for another 2 weeks. I was like, yeah, you're just waiting for each court date because to see what's possible, to see if you can get out or not. So yeah, they lowered my bail. They were able to post bail. No, they didn't. They lowered my bail, but I didn't get bailed out. What they finally released me on after 2 months was it was like a deferred sentence type thing, where like we'll let you out you do community hours, but if you don't finish these community hours or whatever you need to do, even if you're late for one of them, we're going to throw you back in and you're going to serve the rest of your sentence. And a lot of people say, don't take it, it's a trap, you know. Like, how much more time do you have left in here? Another week or 2 weeks? Just do the 2 weeks, because if you do that and you actually miss, you're gonna be in it for 6 months. You know, like. But everyone wants to get out. Yeah, you know, and that's why they say it's a trap. Don't do it. But of course, I was like, no, I just want to get out of here. I'll do it, and I'll do anything you need me to do. So that's what happened. So I was in for 2 months. I finally got out, and I started hanging out with my same friends.
The same people. Yeah, so when you came out, did you like learn anything? Like, is there any? I know you're only in for 2 months and stuff, but was there any like lessons or any like those rules that you?
So many lessons in there. Yeah, like I learned right away. So right when you get into jail, especially LA County, when in the old jail, the first thing you got to do is you got to choose a side. Yeah, it's basically blacks or Mexicans. Because they were like back then they were almost like 50-50 in there. So, and I kind of got recruited as soon as I went to, because I was the only Chino in there. Well, when I went in, there was already another Chino in there, and he was running with the Mexicans. So he kind of pulled me. Goes, no, we're running with the Mexicans in here. So, and that determines everything in jail. Like that determines what phones you can use. And then I found out that in there that you don't share food with anybody but your people. So like if you're starving, you know what I mean, and because I ran with the Mexicans, if a black guy goes, hey, I'm not going to finish this, you want it? Yeah, I'm not allowed to eat that. Yeah, I'm only allowed to eat whatever after you're only allowed to eat after your own people. You only hung out with your people, you know, and then if there's a shot caller in each, so you listen to the shot caller. I kind of just kept my head down and just followed whatever rules I had in there.
Yeah, and how did that, I guess, work for you? Like, would you say if you were to go back, would you have done anything differently, or was that like the right play of
it was just really like that. You don't have a play really. You just kind of do, especially whatever dorm you get put in or whatever. Like you kind of just things changed when I was in jail later on, you know, and I can I'll tell you like as that progression goes. But basically I wouldn't have done it at that point. I wouldn't have done anything different. Yeah. My whole point was I want to get out of here. I'm going to survive. But those are the things I did learn. Like LA County was was a terrible place to be. LA County Jail was a terrible place to be in. You know, I knew the rules of blacks and Mexicans being separated. I knew the rules of of not eating after anybody.
Yeah.
You can't share drinks. Can't, you know, like you kind of kept with your people. And there were moments there too where we had to sleep with our shoes on. That's where they said like something might kick off tonight. Oh, don't even take your shoes off when you go to sleep, because you know, like when you stand up, you won't be able to find your footing. Like, so sleep with your shoes on. Yeah, so that was kind of crazy.
Those nights, like, did anything actually happen or
no. When I went to, so I got transferred to a place called Wayside, which is all the way by Magic Mountain.
During your 2 months.
During my 2 months there, they transferred me over there, and that was big dorm living, you know, and that's where, you know, it was really split, blacks and Mexicans, and that's where, and when I got there, they just had a riot between the blacks and Mexicans. Where like they just cleared the air, like literally just cleared the air. So when I got there, and things started heating up, there were people that were still in there that were saying, do we want to go through this again? Yeah. Come on, man. Come on. We don't want to go through this again. Because, you know, like they toss up the whole place. Yeah. You know, they made people stay outside, you know, for like hours in the cold, you know. So there was a time where they told me to sleep with our shoes on. But then I can hear rumblings like, we don't want to go through this again, man. You know, like people are saying. So I guess there was some beef between the blacks and Mexicans there. But what happened was, there was a black guy that was causing a lot of trouble, like just kind of like being disrespectful and yelling things, and like, you know, it was when it was lights out, you're not supposed to make any noise. He just kept on making noise. So instead of having a riot, those guys just rolled. They just had to take care of that guy. Like, you know, the blacks had to beat up the black guy. Yeah. To qualm on. Yeah.
For sure. All right, so so along with the story, so you did your 2 months. Right, and then you got out, and you said you started hanging out with the same people.
Started hanging out with the same people, like an idiot. Yeah. Like an idiot. Like I don't know. I was. It's so funny how your mindset changes so much, so quick. Yeah. So once I got out, I started doing the things I need to do. So I had to. My job was to clean up, the Torrance courts. I'd have to go there every night and start and had to mop the floors, you know, and stuff. But when I got out, the girl that I was seeing, and she was part of this house, she moved to San Bernardino. So I hung out for a week, and I was able to do my stuff, you know, whatever I need to do. But chicks been saying, you should come out to San Bernardino. You know, it's, you know, my brother lives out here. It's cool. You know, we can, you know, hang out. So I actually went out there. You know, my family was like, you shouldn't do this, Rick. But I was, you know, kind of set already. So I went out there. So they kept on saying, that drive from San Bernardino to the Torrance Courts is crazy, because I had to go every night. Yeah. It's like, oh, it's okay. I'll do it. And I did it for a few days. But then after a while, I started missing, you know. And so that was it. So after I missed like a few days, so I never went back, because then I knew that if I ever went back, that I would have to go back for the remainder of my. Yeah. So I was basically a guy on the run, you know,
Dang. Okay.
Yeah. And I just stayed out of LA County and hung out in San Bernardino the whole time for a long time. And I didn't have a job, so things got even deeper, you know, because the girl that I was hanging out with, I didn't know that she was into like credit card fraud and doing all this stuff. So that's what she was doing. And she did it all the time. And she actually, and I didn't know it, you know, she was just some girl singing. And then when I went out there, she had bags full of stuff from the outlets. And she's like, oh, this is for you. I was like, where'd you get this from? She goes, oh, don't worry. I didn't know that she, you know, used credit card fraud again. And she goes, this is for you. They'll all fit you. And I was like, okay, cool. And it was kind of like, you know, things were like, I felt like, yeah, why not stay out there? You know, like I had all this stuff, you know, and she was like, you know, we were partying and doing stuff. I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. I can do this. Yeah. You know? Yeah, it's crazy. The thing is, I was out there. It didn't take me long before I had to start doing stuff out there. You know, like credit card fraud and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. So you said you like we're starting to join her in the things that she would do and stuff. Like
she would get these names for credit cards, and they're all like girl names and stuff. And one time she got a credit card that was a guy's name, and she like looked at me and she goes, "Do you want to try it?" And I was like, you know, like, and you know, me being a knucklehead.
Yeah.
I was like, sure, I'll try it. So yeah, we made an ID with my name, with that name on it, with my picture, and I went into a casino and I took out cash.
Yeah.
You know, because like you can go to a machine,
Yeah.
take out cash, then you go to the front. You go to the cage and they'll give you the money for it. And I did it. And I was like, yeah, I was freaking. And she kept on saying like, the only person who doesn't know that this isn't you is you. You know, according to everybody else, no one has no idea. You're the only person that knows this. So just got to keep. She was like coaching me. I was like, this is crazy. Yeah, but I mean, it worked.
Yeah. So how long were you doing that? For
I did that for a year, like, and we're talking like. We had like everything. We had cash, we had drugs, we had clothes, we had, things were just coming so easy at that time.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is crazy, you know, because, before I went in, I was struggling, you know?
Yeah.
And then when I came out and she showed me all this stuff, I was like, man, this is crazy, you know?
Yeah.
But, so it really like pulled me in, that whole lifestyle. Like I wanted more of it, you know?
Yeah.
When I was out and I was doing stuff, I didn't finish college or anything. I didn't have a great job, so I was working at the casino, so I couldn't really afford stuff, you know. And I would see my friends buying all these things, having all these things. So when I was able to buy stuff, buy stuff with the other, like I was like, it really pulled me in, you know, because I was like, oh, cool, you know, yeah, things that I couldn't really afford before, yeah.
And then, so how did you get caught, basically, after the first time?
So the second time I got caught, we were doing all that for a long, and so at that time we stopped staying in San Bernardino and we started staying at different hotels everywhere, you know, because we didn't want to like inconvenience her brother. Her brother was like, what's going on here, you know? So we started jumping from hotel to hotel with all these things, you know, just staying in a hotel for a month or two, you know, and just doing crazy things. And we were staying in a hotel in Carson, and Thanksgiving passed, and we were still there. And the girl I was with, she was so weird. She was like, let's give the guy at the front desk, because we knew the guy at the front desk really well already. He was a young dude. Let's give him a PlayStation for, you know. I was like, huh? Just as a gift, you know, because if we take care of him, he'll take care of us, you know. I'm like, that's kind of weird though. PlayStation, you know, back then you can give somebody a PlayStation, you know. And she's like, yeah, I think it's cool. And you know, she did it. She goes, hey, you know, we got you a little gift. We got you something. And I thought, and I think that was kind of like a red flag for them. That plus for them. Okay. That plus we stayed. We were on Thanksgiving Day. We were the only people in the hotel. Everyone was gone. So I think maybe housekeeping came in the room or they found something. But they one day I was taking a shower inside the hotel, and then people were. I can hear her at the front at the door saying like, no, we don't need any towels, we're okay. No, we're okay. And then all of a sudden she screams, and I guess the cops forced it was the cops at the door. They forced their way in. They pulled me out of the shower, and I was like butt naked. Like, sit down here. And I was like,
still like dripping wet and stuff.
And I already knew, you know, because I already knew that I had a warrant for my arrest. I was like, this is it, you know. So basically they took everything, and I went to jail again for the second time, you know. Back to LA County.
Oh shoot.
Yeah. So it was crazy. Like I already, you know, but I did the whole thing again. I got in there and I started freaking out. You guys gotta help me. Please help me.
Yeah. So when you came back for the second time, now that you had already been there, did anything change in your
well,
mindset?
I kind of knew like the rules already, you know, so it wasn't as scary for me because now it wasn't unknown. I knew, okay, I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna get processed in. Like just the steps. Gave me a little bit of comfort, you know, and I knew what to expect, but still, you're in there with a bunch of criminals, so you know, you still got to watch yourself, you know. Did
it change the way that you acted in there, like?
Well, yeah, because now that I was out living a life of like doing all this stuff, like you know, because before I was a party kid, and I got busted. Now I was actually doing a bunch of crimes and stuff, so I felt like, oh, I'm seasoned. I don't know. I'm seasoned.
So like, it wasn't anymore like, oh, I'm the OC guy with the
I don't belong here. You know, my mindset, I don't belong here. Now it was like, I mean, like, I deserve everything that I, you know, this is all coming to me, you know. So yeah, I went in and I don't even remember how long I was in there for. I was in there for a while, but eventually, it was just Alicia my Auntie Alicia that I would call, and she was a single mom at the time too, and she was always frantic, and because she always took care of us, me and Yvette. She always looked after us, even though she was the youngest. So she found a place. So it was basically a drug rehab house. She goes, that was my big problem. I was doing drugs, and because of the drugs, I was doing all this other stuff. She found this drug rehab house, and she goes, okay, I scrounged up enough money. I spent my last money, but that's okay. I'll find more money for my bills. But I got you a bed space at this place, and it was in Torrance. It was over by Torrance High School, actually.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, cool. Thank you so much. I love you, and okay. So my lawyer came and picked me up. He drove me to that house. And it was a house like where a bunch of people who did rehab, they were in there. Like, this is your bed. This is, okay, you're going to have chores. This is your kitchen. After a while, we're going to expect you to find a job. We're going to have group meetings over here at this place. And my whole time I was going, yeah. But in my back of my head is like, I need to call someone to pick me up right now because I'm not going to stay here. And I was super jacked up.
Yeah. Why didn't you want to stay there? Was it like, yeah.
I was thinking like I was still a drug addict, and I was thinking like I'd rather go out and live the life that I was doing than staying here and trying to do this. Like it's weird. Like I associated like with all the things I was doing, all the cash I had, all the things I was buying, and all the drugs I was doing. I found that like an exciting lifestyle. And when he said, like, you need to stay here, you're going to have these group meetings, you need to find a job, I started thinking of my life prior, and I was like, gosh, that was such a struggle. I'd rather, like, it was a crazy mindset, It's so stupid, really, when you think about it.
So would you say, like, your identity kind of shifted more to, like, before you said, like, oh, I'm the OC guy, clean record, like, this shouldn't be me, but the more time you spend in prison, the more time you started, doing drugs and hanging out with those people, your identity kind of shifted, and you're like, that OC guy, that's not me anymore. Like, I don't want to be. Yeah. Would you say like that is kind of like why you didn't want to stay in there, because you kind of like claim more of your identity in that, like.
I don't know if it was a part of claiming, but I think it just was more appealing. Like, like it was fun. It was really fun. Like, yeah, this is, like, do I want to wake up tomorrow and, go look for a job, or do I want to wake up tomorrow and, like hang out and party and, do a bunch of drugs, like, and that's what sounded more exciting for me at the time, So, and it really sucks because my sister, I feel so bad for my sister. Back then, she was a single mom, and she was like putting cash up, to get me out. And she was frantic. She was crying every night, like, I need to help my brother out, and that's what I ended up doing to her. But yeah, I think it was more that than when you do drugs, your mind gets really twisted. Like things that are right aren't right anymore. Things that are, like that whole line, it gets really, really blurry, and you just start, and then it doesn't take much. I guess that's the way, that's kind of how sin works,
Yeah.
You get used to doing stuff, and then at first you feel terrible for doing it, but after a while it's like
you get numb to it.
it. Yeah. It's crazy. So and plus there was a thought, because I was out for a year doing this, and I think that time I was in for, I think, 3 months, I think, or a month and a half, or two, it could have been 2 months again too. But in my head, I was even weighing things out. I was saying, so I did all this stuff, got all this stuff, did all these things, and it cost me 2 months of my life.
Yeah.
For me, that was almost like an even trade again.
Yeah.
I was like, so we're talking like, tens and thousands of dollars, and then all these things, and then 2 months, I was like, okay, that's kind of like, bad. Yeah, it's not bad. I'll take that trade every time, like it's like a slap on the wrist. Now that I'm used to it, it's not as bad,
Yeah. Like, what to do to kind of like slide by in prison so that it didn't feel like too much of a punishment.
And I felt like I was reckless during this year. I go, I was thinking to myself, if I'm more careful, I can even stay out longer and, do all this stuff. And, like I'm very idiotic way of thinking, So I basically got out. I called that girl up and she picked me up. And I was literally there at that house for 2 hours.
Jeez.
It's so sad. Yeah, so sad. Yeah. I jumped in the car. She kept on saying, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Pick me up right now." I took off, and yeah, we went back straight to the things we were doing, you know, like, and it didn't take long. Like, you know, I was thinking, like, I'll be careful. I think I was out for a month and a half.
Only.
Yeah. And I got busted again.
Okay.
Yeah. But this time I was out in Riverside County. Yeah. I got busted out there. It was a whole different ball game out in Riverside County. It was actually nicer than LA County.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say? Some of the rules there were different a little bit?
No, the rules were the same, but they weren't as hardcore over there. Like, they weren't like, you know, they're definitely more thuggish in LA.
Yeah.
Know? Over there are thugs, and they're straight up gang, like,
for
sure.
Know,
but they're not as they're not as ghetto. You would say, you know, they're just a little bit more of like
they're not as reckless.
They're not as reckless, but they're straight up gangsters. Like, you know, like, and they're like long time, like, you know, neighborhood gangsters that have been there for years. You know, like, so, and when you get to prison, you know, these guys are just as thuggish as, you know, these same guys are just as thuggish as everybody else. But I just feel like, I don't know, LA County is just more hectic. You know, it's just, I think it's like a bigger city, and it's just like. The jail's not as well taken care of, so things were a little bit crazy there. Over in Riverside County, it was like a newer facility. Like, they say they're going to give you store, you were going to get store. You know, and when they say they're going to give you store in LA County, maybe you get it, maybe you don't. You know, so yeah, I got busted out there, and it was cool. Like, I mean, like, I was able to, you know, it was a little bit more chiller, a little bit
more relaxed. How long were you in there for?
I want to say 3 months over there in Riverside County. Like, we had showers. Like, in LA County, like, when you took showers, you know, you had to come out of your cell and take a shower. Over here, you're in a big dorm, so the showers were available anytime. You can take showers or TVs.
Oh, dang.
There's vending machines. Yeah, it was a totally different vibe.
Yeah. And then, so you were in there for a few months, and then what happened after that one?
And then they said that because I got busted out there, they said because my original case was in LA County. So as soon as they let me out of there, they had to send me back to LA County.
Dang.
Which was crazy, yeah. So I went back to LA County again, and I stayed there for a little bit, did my time, came out, went back to the same thing again. Idiot, like, really, I was literally like. It was like a revolving door. You know?
Was it still like by choice? Were you still in the mindset of like, I can do the time, I would still rather live that life? Or was it kind of like was it more of that, like, it kind of was just like second nature creeped up on me? Or you were actively still making that choice, like, no, I want to live that kind of life?
I was still actively making that choice, but it was because this is all I know.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is all I know how to do now. You know, I don't know what else to do. Like, am I going to go back and get a 9-to-5 job? Like, where would I, like, there was thoughts, like, where am I going to live? You know, am I going to work in a 9-to-5 job somewhere? And all these thoughts were like, that's not possible. I can't do that anymore. You know, like, so it's kind of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I went out and I started doing the same thing. So the next time I got busted, I was staying at a hotel near Ontario Airport in Ontario. Same thing. They came and they raided the room. They busted us.
Same girl.
Another person was in the room with us. We all got busted. Went to San Bernardino County this time. I got sent back to LA County again because I had another case. And that's when they said, okay, you're going to go to state prison this time. And that's when I was like, what? Yeah. State prison. Like, I was like, yeah, I got sentenced to 16 months in state prison. I was like, crap.
Yeah.
That was a whole nother thing. I was just waiting to catch a chain. They call it catch the chain.
Yeah, what is that?
That's the term. That means you're waiting to catch the chain, and that means you're headed to state prison out of whatever. So you have all these counties, all these county jails everywhere: LA County, San Bernardino County, Riverside County, Santa Barbara County, San Diego. All these county jails, but once you do over a year, they got to send you to a state prison. And a state prison can be anywhere in the state. So all these people come from all these different jails, and they go to the state prison. There's so many there's like 100 state prisons, you know, everywhere. You know, different kinds of prisons. So I went to state prison.
Yeah. And then same thing was that with the rules there a little bit different, like how
totally different. So once you get there, there's now an other car. So now there's, you see, it wasn't just blacks or Mexicans. There was blacks and Mexicans, but the Mexicans were split up now to like Northerners and Southerners. And then the blacks were always Bloods and Crips. Then there was a big white population now, which I never saw before. In you know, and there was like Aryan brother, and then there was others. So if you weren't any of those, if you weren't black, Mexican, or white, you were an other. So there was like a lot of Asians, I met from other counties, Samoans, Polis, American Indians, which is like big, like, in other parts of the state. So they're all others, and you have your own group of people. So yeah, I hung out with them a lot. That actually became my group when I was in there. Because there were some Filipinos that would run with Southerners, because they were jumped into a gang. Or they're in a Hispanic gang. But I hung out with the others. So that would, and I remember you go to reception, and reception is a place. So you go to a reception yard, and that's where everyone goes. But then from there, after reception, you have to go to a real prison. So reception, you're just wearing orange jumpsuits. You're usually there for no more than 3 months, and then from there they send you to a real prison where you wear like jeans and prison blues. And so I got sent to Jamestown after I went to a reception in Delano, and then I got sent to Jamestown. And I remember too, like they're like, all right, this is prison, and I was freaking out. I was like, man. Like you think of like Shawshank Redemption, or you think of like American Me. American Me is not so far fetched, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What's prison like? All the same thoughts like that everyone has. Like you're going to get raped there, or like all these crazy things. But as soon as I got there, the guy who was checking me in, he looks at me, and goes, "Hey man, are you a pare?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "All right, man. Yeah, me too." And he was a Filipino guy from Oxnard.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, that instantly like put me. He goes, "Don't worry, man. We have a group of people in the yard. You'll meet them. I'll let them know that you're coming out."
Yeah. So you had like a little sense of peace.
Yeah.
For that.
So as soon as they opened up the gates, or the doors, and I went out, and there's a big track, and there's all these people in their blues, people like working out, pull ups, push ups, and then you just see them all in their different groups around, playing cards. Yeah, I took one lap around the track towards my dorm, and before I even got to my dorm, there was a bunch of like Asian people. I was like, hey, what's up, man? Welcome. So that was a relief. Yeah. So prison, which I thought was gonna be crazier, was actually
more mellow.
Way more mellow.
Yeah. Everybody there is just trying to like do their time,
do their
like,
time and get out of there. Yeah. And there's way more structure there. Like. Everyone wants to do their time, so no one's going to start trouble. Yeah. Because once you start trouble, then your time is harder. Like you're gonna like you don't get the freedoms of like yard or all that other stuff. Like they'll take that away from you. So nobody wants that. So everyone tries to keep the peace unless there's like big beef. Then things will go down.
Yeah. So you're saying like it's a little more chill, a little more mellow. Everybody kind of does their time. But would you say like the times that things did pop off, if they did, like would you say it was worse than in jail, or? Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I've seen guys like walk out with like pencils stuck in their neck and stuff. Yeah, all the time. You'll see a fight break out, and then like and then everyone get down. Those the alarm will go off. You have to lay down flat on the ground with your arms out. If you stick your head up, they have rubber bullets that they'll shoot at you. Dang. So you just kind of like stay down until everything clears up. There was one riot in there while I was in there that first time, and it was between the Northerners and the Southerners, Hispanics. Yeah. So. But you guys obviously, since you guys weren't involved in it.
We're not involved at all. Yeah.
So you guys were kind of. Where did it happen? Like, was it out on the yard, or were you guys just like spectating?
Well, we knew it was going to happen already. I knew. Well, a bunch of us knew it was going to happen. There, because there was already talk like, oh, it's going to go down. It's going to go down. A lot of the others, we just stayed inside our dorms because like you don't want to get implicated in it. Yeah. So we were like looking out. I'm like looking out the window, and watching, and then you see it going down. You see one group walking down, like they have the radio, pretend like they're hanging out. Another group walking down, like they're just, and before you know it, they're like, boom.
They all just like rush.
Oh, they just rush each other. Yeah.
Dang.
And they just took. There was a guy in my dorm too, and he only had he was gonna get out in a couple weeks. And they kept on asking him, "You sure you want to do this?" He goes, "No, I'm down with you guys, man. I'm down." And he had to do it, and he got more time.
Dang,
I know.
That sucks. Would you say if he decided to not do it, if he said no, I just want to do my time, would they press him about it?
No, or? I think because he was so close to the house, they would have let him go. But I'm thinking this guy is not. He's probably a career criminal. He probably knows he's going to come in again soon.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want that label on him,
might as well build
yeah. I don't think he was thinking I'm gonna get out and that's it, I'll be good. He was probably thinking of the future, if I ever get in prison again, which is probably a yes,
I don't as well have better ties with the people in here.
I don't want to look like a punk.
Yeah. Dang,
so
that's crazy.
It's crazy though. So that first time I got 16 months and I did 10 months on that. So
you got out early?
I got out. So if you get a job, or you have a good time, then you get half time basically, but it's not really half.
Yeah.
So from 16 months, I actually did 10 months on there, which is great.
I
got out, and I was and I even felt more. It's so crazy. I felt more invincible even.
Because you did the next level.
Yeah, that level. I was I got out of prison. I survived prison. So it's so when I think about it, it's such an idiotic way of thinking. So needless to say, all the other times, I started hanging out with my same friends. Yeah, same people.
Dang.
Doing the same thing. Same thing. Same exact thing.
So how many more times did that happen after your time in prison?
So I started realizing every time I go in, I was getting a bigger sentence. I went in for 2 months the first time, and then it was 3 months, and then the other times were kind of tacked on with each other. But then I finally reached a time where they're no, you're going to go to state prison for 16 months. So I already knew in my head if I go back again, they're not going to give me 16 months again. I'm going to get something bigger.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's what happened. I was out, and I was at a Circuit City. I don't know if you remember what a Circuit City was. It's almost like a Best Buy type place back in the days. I was trying to buy something from there with a stolen credit card. And I can tell they were kind of stalling. I was oh, I'm out of here. There's something going on here.
Yeah.
So I got in my car, and I was telling the guy that was with me, just start driving, get out of here. And then I see the sirens behind us, and he's like, I'm gonna take off right now. I go, don't take off. He had a gun. He goes, I'm gonna lose these guys. I'm like, we're gonna die. I was like, we're gonna die. Don't do this.
Yeah, he was gonna drive away, or he was gonna shoot him up.
No, he was gonna drive away. He was gonna try to do evasive driving.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was like, we're gonna either die, we're gonna kill someone, or we're gonna die.
Yeah.
Don't. So because he started taking off in the parking lot, and he just stopped finally. I think he threw out his gun too and stuff, but. Basically, we got caught. They took us in again. We both got busted, and they wanted to give me 3 years at that time. Yeah, and because it wasn't my gun, or I was just in the car. I was trying to do fraud, and it's gosh. At this time, I wasn't calling my family at all.
Yeah,
it was embarrassing already.
Yeah.
What I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm not going to call them and say help, get me out. That wasn't an option anymore. I just put my head down and I said, okay, I have to do the time on this. And I remember thinking to myself, gosh, I'm not going to... They kept on coming back with 3 years, 3 years. And I was I go, if you give me 2 years, I'll sign right now. It sounds so crazy, right? Give me 2 years in prison and I'll sign right now. But I was, going to do that. And I was happy to do that.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. They gave me 2 years and I signed. And I was in Riverside County at that time. And this is the whole changing point in my life. Seriously, I can pinpoint it.
Yeah.
So I was in there, and there was a guy in the cell next to me, Hispanic guy. He actually just came from prison too, but he there was a riot, or he hurt somebody there, so they had to send him back down to Riverside County to try to do his case, or to add more time. Basically, I mean, he caught another case basically. So he came back down, and they were gonna do his case, and he was gonna go back to prison again. But he was in the cell next to me, and we used to talk through the vents. It was kind of like our telephone.
Yeah.
Like there was vents in each, and I can talk to the person across from me, and that vent also went downstairs, and there was 2 people down there. So you could talk to all 4 of us.
Yeah.
So we were talking. We were telling you would tell jokes, but he, out of the blue, goes, "Hey, Chino, do you ever read the Bible?" And I go, I mean, I have a Bible here with me, but yeah, I never read it. He goes, "Hey, I'm going to give you something when we come out for chow." I go, yeah. So he came, and when the doors cracked open, we all went out. He handed me a paper, and it said Romano 7:17. I think it was 7:18. I'm just going to read this really quick.
Yeah.
And it says, "And I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my sinful nature. I want to do what is right, but I can't. I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but I do it anyway. But if I do what I don't want to do, am I the one that's really doing it? Or is it the sin living in me that does it?" Man, and like it totally hit me, like my whole life started flashing through my head, because I did have this feeling in me, like I don't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. It's kind of like I felt like I had no other choice. Like it was kind of my life, but I never wanted to do these things. Like, like maybe I thought myself as a career criminal at the time, but like I thought that was my life. Like I'm a career criminal. Yeah. I'm going to get out again. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go back in. I thought that was my life. I thought that's how it was going to be. When I read that verse, like it literally, something just clicked in my heart, and I never prayed before. I never prayed ever. I went to a Catholic school growing up, but I never really prayed to God. But I got down on my knees and I prayed to God, and I just said, "Lord," and not so many words, said, "Lord, you see my heart. Like you see that this is something that I don't want in my life. I don't want this. You still see the good in me. I think I felt like he still saw the good in me, And I just said, help me. And that was all my prayer was, help me. And like, that was it. Like everything clicked, everything changed. Like my whole mindset changed from there, I felt like, even though I just got sentenced to 2 years in jail, cause I was already sentenced, I felt like, okay, I'm not in this, because at that time I felt like I was alone. I wasn't calling my family anymore. Yeah. But I knew that I wasn't. I felt like God was with me at that time. And I made a promise, and because of that, I made a promise to him. I go, "Lord, when I get out, I'm not going to call anybody anymore. I'm not going to call any of my old ties anymore." And I made that promise to him, I go, "I'm going to do that, but you help me. You help me when I get out, But yeah, I still served that 2 years, I went to Jamestown, I went to fire camp, a lot of the times, because, I had Nicole. At this time, I had Nicole. And Nicole was I want to say, 7 years old at the time, or 8 years old. 7 years old. She was 7 years old at the time. She was always on my mind, I was always thinking, like, am I ever going to see my daughter again? She was kind of like the small little flickering light in my life, because everything was dark, She was a small little flickering, and whenever I had a chance, I would call Alicia and I would say, "Can you just check up on Nicole, make sure she's okay?" I didn't want her to forget me or forget, But I started feeling that, like, with God in my life, I had hope again. Like I felt like, okay, maybe I will see Nicole one day, soon, But yeah, I lived that that 2 year sentence. I did 18 months on that 2 year sentence. Oh no, 16 months on that 2 year sentence, and it was good. Like I went through it. I went to fire camp. Yeah, it was really good. It was a really easy 2 months. 2 years for me, or 16 months, and
no like problems or
no problems. I actually went to fire camp, which is like a camp where you fight fires. So you're out in the open. Like I was
outside of the prison.
It was great. I was out in nature. Like I fought a couple fires, which is a great experience. I was in shape because they make you get in shape. I was at the facility that I was at had like satellite TV, a pool table, hammocks all around. Like the doors weren't locked. You can basically go out in the middle of the night and lay down in a hammock, you know, and just. There wasn't even a fence around the place. Like if you wanted to, you can escape. Like, only an idiot would, you know, because you're basically living in you know, a nice place, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, after I got out, and as soon as I got out, I did everything opposite that I did before. Like I didn't call anybody. I literally they gave me $200 for parole. I was wearing a pair of shorts that were like 2 sizes too small for me. It's like gained so much weight. I couldn't even I couldn't even button it up.
Okay.
But I was fine. Like, you know, like imagine like I had all this stuff before. Like I had all this like designer stuff and like clothes, you know, and money and she when I got out, she actually called me up, that girl. She goes, "Hey, I have all your stuff. Do you want me to just drop it off at your place? You know, you don't even have to." I go, No, I don't want any of it. I literally cut all ties. I hung out so this was June of 1999. So, and I went to Living Bread Ministries because my dad was going to Living Bread Ministries. And then later on that month, this couple walks in with his baby. His name was Marlon and Christina. So June of 99.
Yeah, that's my birthday.
That was you. That baby was you. So that, you know, me and Marlon became really good friends. You know, like he's one of my good friends. Like we used to work out together. I mean, I was straight out of prison. I was still on parole. There was a couple guys at the church I became good friends with after going to church. Brother Glenn, Brother Ron. I don't know if you ever met him. And then Uncle Rome. You know, like we hung out a lot. Like I was literally out of prison. I was on parole. Yeah. But they were so welcoming at the church. Yeah.
Did you go to this? You said you went because your dad was here. Like, did he invite you, or did you like go and seek it out?
No. So he was already deep in the church, and you know, with my agreement with God, you know, like I told him I'll do what I can, but you got to help me. So I didn't know what else to do except for just go to church. So I told God, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to church every Sunday. I'm going to go to prayer meeting every. There was church service on Sunday and Wednesday before, and then a prayer meeting on Friday. The prayer meeting was on Friday, so I said I'll do all those 3 of those every week, and I'll just keep on going and keep on doing whatever you tell me to do until I don't know what else to do. And that's what I did. So I went there, and I would just basically soak myself in church. Me and your dad would work out a lot because we joined 24-hour fitness together, and with another guy who just got out of prison. His name was Steve. He actually just got out of the prison too, and he started coming to church. He's kind of distantly related to Glenn and Melinda, and them. Like he was Melinda's uncle. You know? So yeah, that's all I did, and then I didn't have a job. So my first order of business was I wanted to try to see Nicole for the first time, and her mom wouldn't let me. And understandably, you know, she's like, I don't want you to see Nicole if you're not ready, because you've been in and out so many times. I don't want you to go back in again. I don't want you to see Nicole and go back in again. That's gonna wreck her. Yeah. You know? And I understood that. You know? So I just waited. I just waited for my time. But, you know, I just called.
So how many at this point, which was the end of it all? Like, how many times did you go in and out? How long was each sentence? Like the total time?
Gosh.
What?
So, like I said, that the first year was really blurry to me. I don't know what, but I do know my sentence. I know for a fact my first time was 2 months. I know for a fact that my 2 prison sentences were 16 months and 2 years.
Okay.
I know that I went to San Bernardino County, and I know I went to Riverside County. But in between those, there were so many times where they transferred me back to LA County. So I want to say somewhere between 94, 95, all the way to 99. All I know is June 99 is when I got out. So that's in and out for about 5 or 6 years, but not a solid 5 or 6 years. Like I was out. I was running around. There was a year where I was like free. I remember doing the FF one year, but in and out maybe a couple months here, a couple months there, you know. But yeah, so maybe 4 years total inside, totally inside. Like,
and how would you say that, like, how would you say that changed you as a person? Like, when you were finally out, did you, like, hold on to a lot of things that you learned in there and kind of carry that into the outside and, like, make you think and act in a different way, would you say?
I definitely was a little bit more streetwise, you know. Things didn't scare me, you know. Like, I think before, when I was growing up in Orange County and, you know, you walk into a store, like you drive up to, like, I don't know, Carson, and you walk into the wrong store. You go to South Central, you know, and you saw some crazy people walking around.
Yeah.
I'd be like, ooh, stay away from that. I think when I first got out of prison, nothing of that fazed me. Cause those were all the guys that were inside, you know. Like, I just kind of was used to it, you know. I definitely was very humbled. So, because I think I shared to you guys at camp that when I was in prison, I had a job, and that job paid me 8 cents an hour.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, I was very humbled. You know, I mean, I worked and 8 cents, and I was making 8 cents an hour. So I was like, it's very humbling after, you know, being able to go. I mean, although it wasn't my money, going shopping and buying all these different things, you know, like, and then having 8 cents an hour, it was very humbling. So I think God was just really showing me that you think you can be happy. I mean, you think things will make you happy. All these things is the source of happiness, but, like, you can be happy with nothing. You know, like, and I found that, you know, like, I didn't need stuff. You know what I mean? I survived. I was okay with it without having anything. You know? I think those were the biggest things, like, coming out. It didn't take, like, if I was ever ungrateful about anything, all I had to do was remember those moments, and I'd be like, man, I'm so happy. Like, right now.
Yeah. So I just I guess I would like to kind of wrap up the whole prison phase of your life, I guess, with just a few, like, if you can pinpoint a few moments, like, I guess the moment that you felt the most fear, I guess, or scared, like either scared for your life or, like, the craziest thing that happened that, you know, if it did, like, change your perspective on, like, you know. And then also, like, you know, everybody says that prison, you know, everyone's scared of prison, and but also, you know, you have people in there, like, with really good hearts, and, like, you have good people and you meet people. So was there a moment in there also that you, I guess, like, you had, like, a wholesome moment with somebody that also changed your mind? So I guess that's the main two things, like the craziest moment, like, and then I guess the most wholesome, so, like, the good and the bad. Yeah,
so definitely the scariest moments where I think I mentioned it was, like, when I first got arrested, and then I realized, like, I lost my freedom. That feeling was definitely a feeling that I'll never forget.
Yeah.
And then when I first got sent to a state prison, and the prison, not reception, but the actual prison, they opened up the gym doors to let everybody out. I remember thinking to myself, like, man, this is it. I'm hitting, like, this is my Shawshank Redemption moment. Like, I thought that's what I was going to encounter. So I was really nervous. You know, at
the beginnings time were the worst part of it all. Like, not even during.
All those unknowns. Because I think once I was in there, I was able to adapt really quickly and, like, you know, figure out the rules and know the ropes and just know what to do and what not to do. Yeah. But so it's basically those unknown moments where it's like, what's going to happen? Because your mind is so much more crazier than because you watch those movies and you're like, oh man, this is it. This is going to be crazy. But but there definitely were some times where, you know, I saw a lot of crazy things in there, like the guy stabbed with a pencil in his neck, and so the rides that popped off in there, or there's just so many prison moments that, you know, like, are always etched in my head, like the way we would have spread, you know, like we would make ours when someone would parole, we would all pitch in a bunch of soups and cook it in a big plastic bag and mix a bunch of stuff in there, and scoop that up into a piece of bread and eat it like a taco, and that would be like our potluck going away thing for whoever was leaving. There were moments where like I would walk by a guy and I see him like sharpening a piece of metal on the ground, just a little piece of metal, but he's like rubbing it back and forth on the cement, trying to get it sharp, while everyone's sitting there talking, playing cards.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like this is like just like prison moments where you see people or people getting tattoos in there, because they would they would take apart a Walkman, the machine from a Walkman, and they would use guitar needles and make their own ink, and people getting prison tattoos, like just stuff like that. That's just crazy, ingenious yet crazy at the same time. But I know that maybe for like even for a couple of years after I got out, I would wake up in a cold sweat sometimes, thinking I was still in prison. Like with those memories or those things in my head. Yeah, it would freak me out a lot.
Yeah, like vivid dreams of like being in there.
Yeah. And then because I was out already and I felt freedom to dream about that stuff, feeling like you're locked up again, like
it brings you back to that first moment.
You would like, oh gosh, I'm gonna get sentenced to 5 years this time, stuff like that. Like that kind of feeling.
Yeah. And then what would you say if there was one like a wholesome moment maybe you had with another person or like
so top of the list, that guy. I wish I knew where that guy was again. I remember his name was Jose, the guy who gave me that verse. Like he has no idea. How much my life has changed since he gave me that. Like it was literally that moment in that verse where God, because I was still the same person. It's not like I changed in any way. I was still in prison. Like as a matter of fact, I was, even though that happened, I still had time to serve. I had 2 years after that. You know? It wasn't like, oh, I changed and okay, I'm good. Hallelujah.
That happened at the beginning.
I'm getting out. Yeah, I'm getting out right now. Like I was still 2 years to serve, but literally, it was the transformation of my heart. Everything on the outside was the same, but God really filled my heart and flipped that switch. Like, okay, you're different. You're not. This isn't you. You're right. You're not. You're still the kid from OC. Who says I don't belong here. Yeah. That is you. You don't belong here. So I was like, man. So that's definitely top of the list. Like, and then you meet, and also you'll when I went to prison, you meet friends like other Filipinos, and you just have and then the Polys and Samoans are always really funny, and just sitting around and all the jokes that you can really like, you can be anywhere and laugh at different things. So it was cool just to have a little group of people in there.
Yeah. Cool. So at the end of it all, you were finally out. You started going to church. So how did we get from there of like you being out of church, or you being out and you going to church and meeting, my dad and other friends and stuff like that? How did you stay out and like remain to keep that same mindset of like, I want to stay out and I want to do better? And like, what were the steps that you took to kind of like, I guess, get to where you are now?
So I really just kept my promise with God, like I don't know how else to, what else to attribute it to, like I know drug addiction is really hard to kick, and or even that lifestyle is really hard to kick, and obviously it was so hard for me to kick. But once I had God in my heart, I don't know what it was. It was like it was
super easy.
Yeah, and I just took it a day at a time. Literally, like, okay, I wake up that morning. Okay, God, today's yours. And I didn't look further than that. I just looked at that day, whatever God had in store for me. And he did. He would just, that day I would wake up, have coffee. I was at my uncle's house. I would, hang out with Francis, and he would just get me through that day. And then the next day would be the same thing. One of my biggest hurdles, I say, would be like, okay, what am I going to do for work, for a job, because that's kind of what was stopping me also in my mindset before. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah. Like how do I get a job with this record?
Yeah. With this record, what am I going to do for money? Everywhere you apply, there's always that question. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? And it's like, what do I do? So like one of the big blessings that God sent me was Mommy Lou. Mm-hmm. She was at the church, and she was working at Bytron. Mm-hmm. And she goes, "Don't worry, just go there, apply at Bytron. I'll get you a job." Mm. And I go, "Well, you know," she goes, "Don't worry about that question. I'm in charge of hiring. Just go, and I'll get you a job." Mm. And yeah, sure enough, I just went, and she got me a job. And my first job there, you know, and I was already 30. Mm. I was 30 years old, maybe 31, 30 or 31. I was making $8 an hour. Mm. But I was like, I'll take it, because I was making 8 cents. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Way like God humbles you, you know what I mean? Like he humbles you, and he's like, okay, yeah, I'll take $8.
Yeah.
And I did it, and you know, it was great. I worked, you know, money was coming in. I was, you know, I wouldn't work full time because it wasn't always full time. So, but whatever I worked whenever I can, however long I can, and because of that, I was able to give child support for Maxine. I mean, for Nicole, and it wasn't even much. But I think her mom would she just wanted to know that that was a sign to her that I'm on the right track. Yeah. You know, she wouldn't even care. She didn't even ask. She didn't even give me an amount. She just said, "Just give me whatever you can, you know, and then we'll see what can happen. We'll see after that." Yeah. So I started sending her Nicole child support, and one day she goes, she just called me up. She goes, "You want to come visit Nicole? Just come see her. We're hanging out at her another aunt's house."
So she reached out to you.
She reached out to me.
Yeah.
And I go, totally. So I went there, and I only visited her for an hour, but like, I was like. So Nicole, like, you know how I am with kids, like, they're like my thing. I'm all about the kids. You know? So all I remember is Nicole, you know, always carrying her when she was little. She was always around me. I was carrying her. So when I saw her, I always thought, man, I can't wait to see her again. I can't wait to pick her up and hold her in my arms. You know, she was 9 though, and she was really tall. Yeah. And it was a little bit awkward when I saw her too. You know, she's like she kind of remembered me, but she kind of didn't. You know, and I we just talked, and her mom was just asking me, okay, how's life? You know, what I've been up to. You know, and Nicole was there. She was playing PlayStation with her cousin. She's like, I know she was listening to us but she was just kind of like not paying attention at the same time. Like, and then when I walked up to her and said, hi baby, how are you? And she's like, hi, and I go, oh my gosh, I miss you so much. Can I just carry you just this one time? And I lifted her up, but she was so big. Man. It was like me, you know, like it was like she was 9 years old, and I just like carried her, and I barely carried her, and I put her down. But that was the beginning. That was the beginning of our relationship, and then she was 9 years old, and I hadn't seen her since she was 4, I think. So that was my whole first year. That was great. I mean, like I felt like God was taking care of me. Yeah. Without me knowing, he was, you know, things were already way better than they used to be. You know? Like I had a job. I wasn't making much, but I was okay with that. I got to see Nicole. Yeah. I was hanging out with my old friends. I didn't have the urges anymore. It was crazy. Like God was
like totally 180.
Yeah. Yeah. And God was doing it, but it's not like he gave me everything at once. Like this was like, these were like, this was a progression, you know?
Yeah. So then from that point, like you were rebuilding your relationship with Nicole, and you had a job, and you were going to church, and then how long until you met Auntie Rai?
So that was June of '99. That's when you were born. So that for those 6 months, that's what was going on. And then your Auntie Rai came in 2000. And she came because Auntie RJ was getting married. So that came
to the church.
She came to America.
Oh, okay. From the Philippines.
From the Philippines. Yeah. And she came from, and her whole thing was, I'm going to come for RJ's wedding. But at the same time, she was thinking, I'm not going to come back to the Philippines anymore. I'm just going to move there. So she packed up all her stuff and she moved. And I think she came, Auntie RJ's wedding was in April of 2000. I think Auntie Rai came like in February of 2000, like 2 months before the wedding. So that's the first time I met her. And it was like, she was like drop dead gorgeous, literally, when she came. Like, I only saw a picture of her before. Mommy Lou showed me a picture of her. I was like, whoa, that's your daughter? Yeah. I even made a joke with her, like, oh man, I'm going to marry her one day. You know, Mommy Lou started laughing, you know, but yeah, she came to the church. She wasn't a Christian yet, obviously. She just came for the wedding, and she decided to get a job here. She started working in Canon. But yeah, it was like love it for me. Love at first sight. I saw her and I was like, this girl's amazing, you know. Yeah.
Dang, so you actually had a relationship with God. You had your like walk before she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
Dang. It's actually crazy knowing that she's like a pastor
now.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I actually didn't know that. That's the first time I found out about that. That's actually crazy.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
So she would come and she would say, she goes, I have a relationship with God, you know, like, cause you know, like as a Catholic and, you know, and as a charismatic Catholic, you do somewhat have, you know, but I think it wasn't as deep as, you know, Auntie Ryan knows it now. Like like if you asked her back then, do you think you're going to go to heaven? She would say like, I can only assume I will, but it would be very presumptuous of me to say that I was going to go to heaven. You know, like she didn't know that yet. You know, she didn't know that there was that security there. Yeah. But yeah, I was a Christian before Auntie Ryan, and she there were many nights that we would be hanging out with your mom and dad, talking about God and religion, and trying to explain to her, you know, and mom. There was even one time Mommy Tess came. Mommy Tess was listening, you know, from above, and Auntie Ryan was asking us a bunch of questions we didn't have the answer for, and then Mommy Tess would come down. She wouldn't even say a word. Come down, hand your mom a Bible, and just point at something, and then she would walk away. And your mom would be like, "Oh, the answer is right here." So
that's funny.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was. I met her, and I was like, "Yeah, this is." I totally had my eye on her, but so did every other guy. Seriously, I'm like, no joke. Like Uncle Rome's friends, guys at work, guys at church, they all were like, you know, she was single, she was pretty, you know, she was like, everybody had their eye on her. So I kind of like, I showed interest, but I also took a step back because I was like a convicted. I was still on parole.
That's what I was wondering. Like, how did your relationship work out with like? How early did she know in your guys' relationship that you had that kind of history? And
she knew, I think, I want to say she came in February. I think she knew after like 4 months or something.
And how did that change your relationship dynamic?
Well, first we were just friends. We were always just friends.
Yeah.
It's so funny. If you ask her, it wasn't until your dad told her, like, you know that he used to be in prison. She said it wasn't until then that she actually found me interesting. What? She said until then I was just kind of just like some normal guy. Yeah. And then when she found, she was like, wait a minute,
prison.
He's in prison.
He's
like,
interesting.
Yeah. That's when she found me interesting. So
man, that's funny.
But yeah, that's it was. But that was like around. It's funny because we just came back from family camp, right? What me and her for the very first, like, she knew I was always interested in her, but it wasn't until we had family camp of 2000 that she actually gave me a chance. Like, you know, like I was like pining for her all this time, you know, in my own shy way, but she never really gave me attention until, gosh, was it 2000 or 2001? Maybe it was even 2000. No. It was family. It definitely camp. Maybe I think it was 2000. Family camp of 2000.
That your relationship like actually began.
Yeah. That she actually like came, because until then, like, we were literally just friends. And then if you ask her testimony, that was it. It was that family camp where she saw all of us hanging out. Your dad with Auntie Christina, Uncle Roman, Auntie RJ hanging out, and all these other families hanging out. And she would tell, and she saw me, and she thought to herself, like, I can do this. I can do this with Rick at my side. Like she saw the family dynamic, and she felt like, oh, I can make this my life. I really she really enjoyed it, you know. So but that's her whole story. Man, there.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy that we've talked about this stuff before, and I'm like barely finding things out now. You know, like But so now you have your relationship with Auntie Ryan, stuff like that, and then how did you get to like where you are now, like the job that you have now? And
that's crazy. So that's all with Mommy Lou attributed. Like the roots of that is from Viatron. So I always thank Mommy Lou for that.
Mommy Lou. So that's Auntie Ryan's mom.
Auntie Ryan's mom. Yeah. So she and your grandmother.
Yeah, my grandmother.
So she is the one who got me the job there, and because of that job, this guy came in. So that job is all about digitizing stuff, taking paperwork, putting it in a scanner and making a digital file of it.
Yeah.
People wanted to get rid of paper. They just want like digital files. So that's all that was digitizing that and then indexing each one. Okay, this is a transcript. This is whatever. So a lot of those customers for the company were schools, but one of the customers was Fox Studios. So they got like a thing at Fox Studios, and because of that relationship, the owner of Vitron, he actually hired somebody he met on the lot. His name is Terry Castagnola. Hired him he goes, hey, I'm looking for someone to oversee the operations. Would you mind coming out for like 6 months? He goes, yeah, I'll do that for 6 months. I wouldn't mind getting out of the industry for a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's what he did. He came and he ran Vitron for 6 months. And I think I talked to this guy maybe twice in my whole time there, you know? Like we had to use his truck one time to pick up a bunch of boxes. And then one time he needed to find something from the yellow pages, you know, this is like pre-internet. So I found something that was it. Anyways, his 6 months was up and he left. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call from him saying, hey, Rick, this is Terry. I don't know if you remember me. I used to work. If I go, oh yeah, hey, it's going Terry. He goes, well, I have a job offer for you. It's as a PA for a TV show. And you'll be making more money than you're making at Vitron. And I was like, all right, that's all I need to know. That's all I needed to know. I was like, making more. Okay. And so that was it. I became and I go, oh, I have one question. What exactly is a PA?
Yeah.
And he started laughing. He goes, it's a production assistant. I go, and what does a production assistant do? He goes, you're going to do anything anybody else tells you to do, whatever they tell you to do. I can do that. So, you know, that's what I did. So he hired me on, and that TV show was a show, was the very first season of The Amazing Race. So it was kind of cool. Like it was kind of like the birth of reality TV. I think the only other TV show out there at the time was Survivor, and they were still shooting at the time. They weren't even on TV yet when I started working at. So it was really the birth of reality TV. Like there was no other reality TV shows out there. You know, I mean, the new kind. I mean, there was like shows like Cops was out there, you know, like that wasn't really reality. That was kind of like docu style. But, but as far as like modern reality TV, that was kind of the birth of it. So I kind of saw all that in the beginning, and I became a PA. Our offices were in Marina Del Rey, and I would get coffee for people. I would empty out trash cans. A lot of times I was going to like the map store because it was The Amazing Race, and they needed maps of different countries, right? Like they were like. So I was doing stuff like that. Eventually, after they started shooting and after everything was done in production, they opened up post production. I was like, oh, this is cool, because now all the editing machines started coming in. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then somebody told me, the guy who was there, he was like the accountant, goes, hey, you should really roll into post. He goes, because production is really short and post is like, a lot longer. If you learn post, you'll have longer employment. I was like, oh, cool. So I actually went from a production assistant to a post-production assistant. And I started doing stuff for post, you know, which was cool. So that was really the birth of the whole thing. Like I didn't know anything about shooting or machines or like editing machines or even like tape machines. But I learned everything on that first season of The Amazing Race. Yeah.
So from then till now, like what shows have you worked on?
Wow. So Amazing Race, I worked on like for 4 seasons over there. It was great. 4 seasons. I learned everything. 4 seasons. And then I worked on The Contender for 2 seasons. I worked on like a lot of, I worked on Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader for a couple of seasons. A lot of 1-season shows like there's a show called Pirate Master. Another one called Stars Earn Stripes. Mission Impossible was another one. I worked on the Great Food Truck Race. Worked on that for a season. And then I worked on The Apprentice and The Celebrity Apprentice for years. That was kind of like one of my main gigs, the Apprentice. But really my whole bread and butter is The Voice. So right now, for the longest time, since season 3 all the way up to now, I've been working on The Voice. So that's. and I became an editor. So I started as a production assistant, went to a tape librarian, and then I went to tape librarian. I became a tape librarian at Big Brother, so I worked first season at Big Brother. Mm-hmm. And then I became an assistant editor, and I finally became an editor. I want to say in 2009, I became an editor. So yeah, I've been an editor since then.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like the whole progression of everything. Like how was just like small step after small step after small step. Like and it wasn't even really like something, and correct me if I'm wrong, but something that you really have to strive and really like work hard after, and like I need to seek to become this and that. And it kind of just like unfolded before you.
Yeah, when I talk to people that I work with, they all went to film school. You know, they're all like film buffs. They know they start reciting lines from movies that I've never heard of before, and like they're like so into it. You know, and I'm literally just like this new guy. You know, I was a little bit older too than a lot of people because they all started young. But like, it's crazy. God just, I mean, I didn't even ask for this job. This guy called me up out of nowhere. Yeah. You know, he goes, "Hey, you want to work as a PA?" Like, God basically put on a silver platter. He goes, "Here, you're gonna follow me. I'm gonna give you. I told you I'm gonna take care of you. Here, I'm gonna take care of you." It's crazy, and like, when I first met Auntie Rai, she was working at Canon, and she made way more money than I did at the time. Like, it was ridiculous. I was making $8 an hour, you know. And then when we went at Vitron, and then when I was working as a PA, I was only making like $11 or $12 an hour at the time, something really small, you know. And Auntie Rai, you know, she jumped into sales right away. She was making so much money. We actually got married. She was making way more money than I was, but like, it didn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like, she never made money an issue, and it always made me feel good that, you know, like she wasn't like that. But that wasn't our end story. Like, you know, like eventually God gave me a better job, and that shifted. Like, my income became more than her income, but and that doesn't matter either, you know. But it was just, it's just the whole dynamic of life, you know, like how, I guess God just showed me like in your little you'll be taken care of, and in your plenty you'll be taken care of. So you know. Yeah. So,
like, what point in all that too, like, did Maxie come into play?
Oh, so she's really another blessing too. Yeah. Like, you're a part of this too, because me and Auntie Rai got married in 2002, and then we were a little bit older than, you know, like a normal married couple. Like, I was, So your Auntie Rai is older than Auntie RJ and your dad. But yet, you know, your dad got married way before her, and then Auntie RJ got married a couple of years before her. So like we felt like and I was already a little bit older and previously married, so we felt like we were older already. So when we both got married in 2002, we wanted kids right away. Like, I don't think that was a question. Like, we should try already. Yeah, you know? We tried having kids, and you were born in 99, so you're like the only kid around, you know. And then Roman was born a couple of years later, right? He's 2 years younger than you.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I remember specifically your mom said, "Okay, Sigit, all right, let's try. We'll both get pregnant together. We get our kids can grow up together." So we tried at that moment, and your mom got pregnant with Bella. And your Auntie Rai didn't get pregnant. And then Auntie RJ got pregnant again with Nisa. And we still weren't getting pregnant. And then Gabri. And then I remember when your Auntie Bubbles, before even Nisa, I mean, like when Auntie Bubbles got married, I remember Auntie Rai specifically saying, "Man, if Bubbles gets pregnant before I do, I'm gonna be so pissed." And she did. She got pregnant twice, before. So basically, we waited 7 years, and we were already thinking, like, is it gonna happen? Maybe not. You know, like, we both got tested. Like, we went to see a doctor. I went to see what was wrong with us, and he was saying I had like a low count, and they were just saying it was very. It wasn't impossible, but just keep on trying. You know, like, they couldn't figure anything out, and we had to kind of stop at that moment because our insurance wasn't that good. So we almost gave up.
Yeah.
And then,
was there ever a point in time where you were like kind of having a conversation with God, like, God, I thought you were gonna provide for me. I thought you were gonna.
I never questioned him with a child. I mean, I think it was different with me and Auntie Rye because I had Nicole.
Yeah.
You know, so I knew what it felt to be like a dad. I had that love.
Yeah.
I had Nicole, but I think it was more so with Auntie Rye. You know, it was really, really painful for her. You know, like to not have a child. You know, and it was an aching thing in her.
Yeah.
But we never questioned God. You know, like it was always. We always knew God loved us, and it was never like an angry thing at God.
Yeah.
It was like okay, this may be painful, but what do you have in store for us, God? And you know, back then everyone would always say the same thing to Auntie Rye, like you do have kids, you have 20 kids, look at all the SOS, you know, they're your kids. And but then one day I remember it was during Uprising. I had to come straight from work. I came straight to the church, at the old church in Carson, and I thought things were going to be like hit the ground running because it was Uprising night, you know, and everybody was there getting ready. Yeah. But Auntie Rye grabbed me and she goes, I have to come here. I need to talk to you. She grabbed me and we went to the car, and we sat down in the car. Go, yeah, what's going on? And then she pulled out a pregnancy stick and she stuck it on the dash. I go, wait a minute, this is not a funny joke. You know, and I started tearing up, you know, because I knew she wasn't joking. She goes, no, look, and she pulled out a bunch of them. She goes, I took all of these. I go, oh my gosh, I just started bawling. You're pregnant. Yeah. So then we got out of the car and we all prayed. Yeah, so I'm already tearing up thinking, stood up and we all prayed, and it was like, wow, God, you're so good. Yeah. So. Yeah. Yes, and the Maxine was born in 2009, so that's a 7-year wait. Yeah. For a kid, she was. We got married in 2002, and she was born in 2009. So.
Yeah. Damn, it's crazy to hear. Like I said, just like the way everything kind of unfolded, where it's just like everything was a gift, you know? Yeah. Like the way you were able to turn your life around. I'm not saying that you didn't work hard for it, right? But like it didn't feel like you had to try really hard, you know? Like it was kind of just like gifted. Like the way you turned your life around, the way you got a job, the way that you ended up with Auntie Rye.
I agree with you, man.
With at the Nicole and Maxie.
Yeah, it's kind of like God really took care of me. Like all I had to do was like say, okay, God, I'll do it. I won't do it my way because my way, I know I'm an idiot my way. I'll do it your way. And that's all I had to do. Yeah. And he basically just and it wasn't like all at once. Yeah. You know? It was like, yeah, you're right. It was like, but it wasn't a struggle. Like, it just all came, you know? Yeah. Like, you know, I mean, even up to now, I feel there are moments when I like this, when we're talking, or very, very seldom now, like I'll wake up, maybe like once a year, I'll have the dream, like I'm still in prison, you know? And then I wake up and I realize, man, my life, God has changed my life so much. I'm so far removed from all of that, you know, like everything that he's given me. So, and there are moments where I find myself grumbling or complaining, you know, about life, you know, like why, and then God will always make me remember those moments. Like, dude, don't forget, you were just in prison. You know, like you could remember that life, how that was. And I was like, oh yeah, like 8 cents an hour. Like I don't, like, it doesn't take much for me to, and then he puts me in there and I'm instantly like, you're so good, God. You're so good, you know, cause like, he's just done so much for me, you know, and that's why it's so hard to, a lot of people like, they question if God is real, you know, like they question like, how do you know God is real? And I'm not a theologian. Yeah. I can't say like, and I don't know like apologetics, whatever. I don't know much about any of that stuff. Like I can't argue that. All I can show is my life. Really. Yeah. You know, like I don't know how to, and I can't explain it because you tell me how that happened, because all I know is I prayed to God that night, you know, he did something in me he did something to me that I couldn't do before. Like I was in jail and prison. Like I wanted to stop. I wanted to see my daughter. I wanted to stop doing drugs, but I couldn't do it. And then that one night I read that verse, I prayed to God and I said, help me. And instantly, like, you know, I did the other 2 years, but he helped me, you know, like, and I don't know how to explain that except for, so if you ask me if God is real, I can absolutely tell you God is real and He's real in my life, but I can't explain anything more than that.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you the intricacies of all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And that's why, you know, I really was excited to have you on because of that fact of like how your life is a testimony of how God works, and also like just the big shift that you weren't able to do for yourself, you know, like how your history is and how you are now and the life you live now. Like I was just talking about it with my mom in preparation for the episode. Like if anybody were to talk to you or see you, like the way that you function now and the life that you live now and the people that you surround yourself and the way that you act and the way that you speak, like no one would guess that you've been to prison for 5 years and went through all of that. And it's really is just a testament of God having that shift in your life, you know?
Yeah.
And
really, that's what He's in the business of, is changing lives.
Yeah.
And like I'm like fully a testimony to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you wanted to kind of like share about your story?
No. I mean, like, kind of covered it.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's cool that I feel honored that you get me. I made the cut. Like I get to be on one of your podcasts.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like everyone was so excited. Like everybody, like, you know, a lot of friends and family like to keep up and stuff, and they asked me, oh, who are you having next, like this and that, and then when I would tell them like, oh yeah, I think my next person's gonna be Uncle Rick, their eyes would light up like, oh, that's gonna be so good. That's like cool. He's so excited and stuff like that, just because they know how powerful your story is and how captivating and life-changing your life can be. And again, that's what I'm saying, like it's not anything that you did, and it's not anything that like for some people like how do I explain it? Like, it's not anything that I don't want to like put a damper on like your life and like the things that you did, but it's not anything that you had to earn really. It was just given. And
I agree. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, like, honestly, I'm an editor on a like award-winning show. Mm-hmm. I never went to film school, dude. Yeah. Like I don't like when I first started, they told me to make copies of some B-roll. I didn't even know what B-roll was. You know, like you know, it's crazy. Like I'm just some dude, like just literally. So when I started working at The Voice or at The Amazing Race, I was just like, I think I was just like a year away from parole. Right? I was on parole for a couple years. Yeah, I started working at The Amazing Race in 2003 or 2004. 2003. It's like, dude, who am I? You know what I mean? I was like an ex-felon just not too long ago.
Yeah, and that's really the juice of like Christianity and how God works, of like, who am I? Like, I have nothing to attest to. Like, I have nothing to brag about my life except for God, who was able to change it. You know what I mean? Like, without, especially again, like in your life, without having that moment, that shift, and realizing that like, God, you're the only one that can change my life, then where would we be? You know? Yeah. So I guess the last question, and I guess we really talked about it a lot already, but just if you wanted to bring anything else up, the last question that I always ask everybody really is, what is one thing that changed your life that you think would change somebody else's life? And like I said, I know that we talked about it a lot, but if there's anything else other than
like if there was anyone who ever is struggling with the things that I used to struggle with drugs or just that other lifestyle, mostly drugs and that lifestyle, the one advice I can give them, I mean, obviously it's God who does it, but one of the things that really helped me at the time was I really just cut all ties with my past life, you know. Because it's so hard. That struggle is so hard. You know, you kind of have to really, like once you give the devil an inch, he'll totally force his way back into your life. So, if I was ever going to give like a single advice to someone who is facing that same struggle, just cut all ties with your past life. Like, try to start anew, really fresh. You know, like, and just leave all that stuff behind, because we're only human. You know, and we really have a sinful nature in us, and it's easier to, because of gravity, it's easier to fall down than climb back up. You know, and so if we ever get weak, we're just gonna fall back down to where we used to be. So
that's really good. I really appreciate, again, this conversation that
pleasure.
we had. And like I said, we always talk about it, but I think to be able to hear the whole story and how you got from, again, like that, it's not really me, OC guy, and I shouldn't be here, to like the life that you live now, and having a wife and like kids and a really good job, and being surrounded by like people and family that love you, and vice versa. It's really inspiring to see how our lives can be changed and stuff. So
cool. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks, Uncle.